Now let's look at reactions of acids and bases. I'm gonna go through these very quickly since you guys already have covered this stuff in chapter 7. I've covered it for you, but I just wanna like go over it fairly quickly. All right, neutralization reaction, and that would be when I have acid reacting with a base. If the base is a strong base, okay, let me write here strong base, I'm going to get salt and water, as I already told you. Example of this will be magnesium hydroxide with nitric acid will give me magnesium nitrate, that's my salt, and water molecule. You can go through the net ionic equation and the whole thing with this. Okay, this is complete ionic equation. You go net ionic equation. Then, regardless whether the acid, nitric acid here, is a strong acid or if it's a weak acid such as acetic acid, you will still get salt and water. The base has to be a strong base. That's what this is known as the Arrhenius acid-base reaction. Since according to the Arrhenius definition, it can't be a base unless it has a hydroxide in it, and that's what a strong bases are, that they have hydroxide in them. And we'll come back and talk about what strong bases are. The other type that we looked at was that if we react an acid with a weak base. On the other hand, if I have a weak base, regardless whether I have a weak acid or not, then I end up with acid and base on the product side. And the examples I gave you, the reaction with potassium phosphate. Phosphate is a weak base. And I told you that if you don't recognize it as a base, as long as you have an acid with it, it can be classified as a base. So I end up with phosphoric acid in the product and potassium nitrate. All right, that's this reaction. The other, I'm not sure this is going to work now since you're going to have to go back and review chapter 7 and come back and answer this, but if you still remember this stuff, go ahead and pause this video, or you can come back to this and try to do it after you review chapter 7. So I'm going to go through this and answer it for you. If I react calcium hydroxide, that's a strong base right here, with sulfurous acid, then I'm going to get salt and water. So I'm going to get calcium. Let me use my pen here. So I'm going to take the calcium with the sulfite ion, and I'm going to combine the hydrogen with the hydroxide here. So that's how you get salt and water. So you get CaSO3 solid plus 2H2O. This is also a strong base, lead 4 hydroxide. So I'm going to combine the lead with the chlorate ion and the hydrogen with the hydroxide. So I get salt and water as well. So I'm going to get lead 4 chlorate, ClO3 4 plus 4H2O. Notice solid, solid. So that also from chapter 7 where we looked at the solubility rule. You will have that solubility rule on the exam, so you can use it. Calcium carbonate with nitric acid, that's a weak base right there. So as a result, I am going to get calcium nitrate, and that's soluble. Then I'm going to get, so I need 2 of these right here. So I'm going to put 4 right here to balance this. Then I'm going to form H2CO3 aqueous, which actually decomposes into carbon dioxide and water. That's also from chapter 7. Magnesium with acetic acid. Acetic acid, so that's a weak base, so I'm going to get an acid and a base in the product. So I get magnesium acetate, C2H3O2 2 aqueous plus, so I get carbonic acid, which decomposes into carbon dioxide and water. So I'm gonna get 2 carbon dioxide and 2 water molecules, and I'm gonna put 2 here in front of this. This is cleaner. There you go. Now, in addition to neutralization reactions, also metal react with acids. And when metals react with acids, so if I take a piece of magnesium and put it in hydrochloric acid, it's going to give me salt and hydrogen gas. So anytime you have a metal reacting with an acid, you're going to produce hydrogen gas as a product. So whether it's magnesium, zinc, or iron metal, they all produce hydrogen gas, as you see here, with the metal salt. Okay, the salt is going to be the metal cation with the anion from your acid. But that doesn't mean all metals are going to react with acid. So in this chapter, I will tell you which metals will and which metals won't react with acid. But when we get to chapter 16, I'll share with you and I'll explain it, which metals do and which metals do not. Also, acids react with metal oxides. Okay, so for example, if I take hydrochloric acid and reacted with this potassium oxide, it's going to produce salt and water as well. Okay, it will produce salt and water. So anytime you have acid with metal oxide, you're going to end up with salt and water. Okay, salt and water. Hydrochloric acid with potassium oxide will give me water and potassium chloride. Or if I take hydrobromic acid with magnesium oxide, I also get magnesium bromide and water. All right, salt and water. Try this one. Complete and balance the following reaction. So I have hydrochloric acid with calcium oxide. So I'm going to get salt, calcium chloride, right? Calcium, the cation from the metal oxide with the anion from the acid. So I get calcium chloride. Then hydrogen combined with oxygen to give me water. That means I need 2 hydrochloric acid for that. There'll be 2 hydrochloric acid to give me calcium chloride and water. And if I take just simply a metal with an acid, hydrochloric acid in this case, I'm going to get hydrogen gas, right? And since calcium forms a 2+ cation, that means I need 2 chloride and 2 hydrogen to form H2, so I need 2 in front of HCl. 2 in front of HCl. Now this one is a bit beyond the scope of this class, but aluminum is one of those cations that when it's in water, it forms a complex ion that can react with a base to neutralize it. So it's a neutralization reaction. Okay, so this one is the reaction of sodium hydroxide with aluminum and water, and that is the only reaction I want you to know when it comes to aluminum. That's it. Sodium hydroxide with 2 aluminum and 6 water will give me 2 sodium aluminum hydroxide as such, and 3 hydrogen gas. Okay, it's one of the few metals that actually dissolves in a base, so just use it. Actually, I can do this later. We'll do this later.